that here, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what our soul is whispering. So one of the names of Ibleess is waswas. So yuwaswisu fi sudurin nas. And waswasa, the origin of the word, it was the real subtle sound that the jewelry makes, like the hilya. It's one of those onomatopoeic words, waswasa, yuwaswisu. Even whisper sounds very similar in English, waswasa. So it's a voice that you can't really hear, but here it means the internal voice. Because it's fi sudurin nas, alladhi yuwaswisu fi sudurin nas min al-jinnati wan nas. Because people will get into you. Like if you listen to the wrong people, their words will get into you. And you'll hear them. So this waswasa, the Prophet ﷺ sought refuge in it. The Quran, one of the last verses in the Quran is to seek refuge from waswasa. And the Prophet ﷺ, it's actually in fiqh, the muwaswis, and it's used in the active voice, even though it's actually there muwaswas, but it's muwaswis. The one who is muwaswis in our tradition has a separate set of fiqh in the sujood as-sahw, right? And what do? They ignore it. Because the way that you increase the waswasa is by giving it some kind of reality. Like if you begin to obsess about it. And one of the ways that Dr. Cleary translated the demons was the obsessors. That's how they work. They make people obsessive about things. Sidi Ahmed Zarruq said waswasa, that the waswasa in wudu is either, he said it's either jahlun bis sunnah or khalalun fil aql. So it's either a mental derangement, which is like what we call OCD, this obsessive compulsive disorder. So Ahmed Zarruq talked about that it's a type of psychological problem. And other scholars mention that also, because obviously these are human problems that existed long before us. Or it was just ignorance of the sunnah, because shaitan, what they say about the waswasa, and this is very important for people that have, because there might be some people either watching or in this room that have this problem. What's really important to remember is they say al-lus, the thief, la yasraqu min baytin kharib. He doesn't sneak into an empty house, a derelict house. He goes into a house that's full. Shaitan is going to focus more on the people that have piety, and so it's very important to know that oh, am I in wudu? Making these doubts. Malik is I think of the four. If you have doubt about wudu, usually doubt, الشك لا يزول, right? اليقين لا يزول بالشك. But in wudu, Malik has you have to redo your wudu if you doubt the wudu. There's ahkam to that, but in any case, generally shak is ignored, right? Unless you have some certainty that it happened. So just ignoring shaitan. I mentioned that last time, that Sidi Ahmed Zarruq says that وَمَا يُوَسْوِسُ بِالْإِنسَانُ وَالْقَلْبُ يَأْبَاهُ الْإِيمَانُ, that what you hear in your heart that the heart rejects, that's iman. And the Prophet says sarihul iman, that it's true iman. So not obsessing with this is very important. And the other thing, there's a bab in al-Bukhari which is actually called al-waswasatu fil iman, ma yuwaswisu bihi shaitan liyushakkik fi imanika. So it's what shaitan will tell you to make you doubt your faith. So in that bab, one of the hadiths, which I think is another miracle of the Prophet ﷺ, there's countless miracles, but he said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that shaitan would say to the human being, yasaru, man khalaqa hada, man khalaqa hada, hatta yaqul man khalaqa Allah, who created Allah, right? And there's other riwayas, la yazal an-nas yatasa'alun, people will continue to ask one another, who created this? And wa yuqalu Allah, and it will be said Allah, 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 and then they say, who created Allah? And he said, if you hear that, فَلْيَنْتَهِلْ, just don't listen to it. You know, many years ago I was in Morocco, and there was somebody, he was actually working at the gas station, but he was a student at the university, and he told me he was taking philosophy, and the philosophy teacher had asked that question to the, because this is something you hear in the philosophy departments. Okay, well, so who created God, right? And he asked me that. He said, what's the answer? And I told him that hadith, and he had such relief to hear that. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ, you know, he never wavered in that. Whatever he saw that was dangerous for this ummah, he warned us about it. And that's one of the things he warned us, that they're going to ask that question. Because that was not a question of the ancients. It's a question of the moderns. Ancients wouldn't have asked that question. So waswasa is just something, it's very important to not, you know, to not get lost in it. Don't argue with him, because it just gives him more force. قاعدة أسسها الزروق ولم تزل أقواله تروق. So this is a qaida Imam Zarruq put forward. Like, do not fight with the waswas. Just ignore him. And one of the Salaf was actually asked how you treat waswasa. He said, if you ever have it, just be happy. Feel happy. Because shaitan does it to make you miserable. So when you get happy, it really bothers him. So he just said, just be happy. فَلْيَفْرَحْ. Just feel joy. And so that's a proof about the derelict house. Like, you should be happy that he's bothering you, because it means that there's something there that he's worried about. And then he says, وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ حَبْلِ الْوَرِيدِ. We're closer to him than his own, traditionally translated, jugular vein. He's closer to us than our own selves. He knows us better than we know ourselves. إِذْ يَتَرَقَّى الْمُتَرَقِّيَانِ. So that's one of the commentaries, is it's the angels, that they're present with him all the time. And the angels, Allah has created this order. Allah does not need angels, but this is part of the sunnah of creation, that there's angels, and they're all over. When people come together for the sake of Allah, the angels, there's angels that are sayyara. They're literally, they travel around the earth, and just as we see the lights of heaven, they see the lights of dhikr. So just like we see stars, they see the places where there's dhikr, and they will go to those places. And that's why you feel a sakina when you're in places where there's dhikr. People feel a sakina. The Prophet ﷺ told us, the Quran says that we have mu'aqibat. There's these the ones that yahfudunana. They protect us. So the hafadha are angels that protect us, unless the qadr comes, and then they have to hold it. But I know all of you have probably been in situations where you were about to get into an accident, and then something happened, and your attention was drawn. And I once fell asleep driving when I was 17. I was driving a car, and it was very late at night, and I fell asleep, and I got yanked out of sleep, and I was literally headed right for a telephone pole, and I just missed it. But that's angelic. When it's not meant to happen, the angel will divert you from that harm. And that's why it's important also never to get upset about missing a flight. Like the Egyptian man in Abu Dhabi, he got really angry, he was screaming at them and everything, and then that flight crashed, a few years back. They interviewed him. He said, astaghfirullah, like, turned out to be a rahmah for him. Yeah.